Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Rin. Today I'm going to be reorganizing my bookshelf. It's gotten to be incredibly messy and chaotic, so I need to clean it up and then I will walk you through kind of a tour of my bookshelf and everything that I have in my collection and kind of how I've decided to organize it. I'm gonna start with showing you what it currently looks like. This is kind of what I'm dealing with at the moment. It starts okay and then it gets significantly worse. I have like all of my jewelry just laying out, some random knitting stuff, and then here is very bad because there's like stacks in front of each other and boxes and more mess down here. And then at the bottom, it's just like, I don't even know. More books on my bed that were over in the living room. So first, I'm gonna take all of these books off the shelves and categorize them into piles in how I want them like organized. And then I'm gonna clean off the shelves because they have not been dusted in way too long. Here are the final piles all pulled off of my shelves. I have some of my translated fiction, some Frederick Bachman, some poetry. I have my Penguin modern classics all in a stack. Some nonfiction, eclectic mix. I have a couple of fantasy series in a pile, and then some more classics. These are like modern classics, and then it gets into some real classics. Penguin, Black Spine, and I have a couple of cloth bounds, a few NYRBs, and then just a huge pile of lit fic and other modern, more recent publications. And then on the floor is just a giant jumble of stuff, mostly fantasy and some nonfiction, and then just, I don't know. So starting with the top shelf, this first section that I have is modern publications that are mostly focused on women. I think of this as like my messy girl fiction section. So let me move this. I have like Otesha Moshfegh, I have Emily Austin, Interesting Facts About Space, and I also have Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. This is actually the Canadian edition. It's this one that I ended up getting my hands on a copy of. Yeah, it's a range of like super intense, like The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath and A Certain Hunger, which are kind of like really unhinged, and Pizza Girl is also pretty unhinged. And then some other like more chill ones. Luster by Raven Lalani is so good. So is In Defense of the Act. This was one of my favorite books I read last year. Sour and Bliss is much like sadder. And then Freshwater is just a very interesting like perspective on gender and like queer identities. Her Body and Other Parties, which is a short story collection by Carmen Maria Machado, which is like horror focused on womanhood. And then Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. I read this book in November and really enjoyed it. There are certain pieces that I didn't like about it, but it's a very interesting perspective on like a girl working in like a capitalist world and suffering tremendously. And then I had The Idiot by Leif Batuhan, which I haven't read, and Ghost Lover by Lisa Tadeo, which I also have not read. This is my translated fiction section. Anything that's like not a classic translated. And it flows really nicely because I start with The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante and The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir, which are both like about unhinged women and women kind of going crazy female rage. And then I have This Is the Broken Wings by Gibran. I have The Ice Palace by Tarje Vesas. And then I get into my Fitzcarraldo. The first three are Annie or No. I have Happening, Shame, and The Years. I've only read Shame, but I love it, so I want to read the other two soon. And then these ones are random ones. I have Drive Your Plow, Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Targazuk, Bonsai by Alejandra Zambra, and Stillborn by Guadalupe Nettle. I loved these two. Bonsai was too weird for me. I didn't get it. And then these are other editions of translated work. So I have Heaven and Breasts and Eggs by Miyako Kawakami. I haven't read Breasts and Eggs yet, but I really want to soon. And then I have my Charco Press editions. I have two by Claudia Pinheiro, Elena Knows, and A Little Luck. I've only read Elena Knows and loved it. And then I have Not a River by Salva Amata, which I have yet to read. Then I have the Triptych trilogy by Ava Baltazar. It's actually out of order. It should be Permafrost, Boulder, and then Mammoth. I've read both Permafrost and Boulder. Really, really good. I loved Boulder a little bit more, and I have yet to read Mammoth. They're all about like sad lesbian women who don't feel like they fit in this world. And then Minor Detail by Adenina Shilby. This is a Palestinian novel. Very, very good. Highly recommend. And then these last two are my bigger translated fiction, both of which I have not read. It's Tomb of Sand by Dichanjali Shri and Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. And then I have my two hardcover translated fiction, Is Mother Dead by Vigdis Hjorth and Aiden by Lene Axelson. Highly recommend both of these. So that's the first shelf. Okay, then I get into my classics. I shall move these candles. So this is my stack of Penguin Black Classics. Mixed on whether or not I've read them. Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. Did not enjoy Shirley Jackson's Hanged Man, which I have yet to read. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which I really like. This is my edition from high school, which is why it's so like this. The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which I have yet to read. Once There Was a War by John Steinbeck, which was okay. And then these are the newer Penguin Black classics. So I have Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which I loved, read that last year, so good. 2 Jane Austen books. I have Northanger Abbey and Pride and Prejudice. Really liked both of them. Pride and Prejudice is just like has my heart. And then I have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I listened to this book on audio a few years ago, but I have yet to read it physically, which is why it looks so pristine. And then I have Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabatin Ali. 2 Edith Wharton books. I have The House of Mirth, which I am currently reading, and Ethan Frome. I'm really, really enjoying The House of Mirth, like really, really loving it. And then I have 2 like little Penguin classics, which are Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke and White Nights by Dostoevsky. And then I put my copy of The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman up here as well. Then I get into Penguin Modern Classics, which I love. I love the way this looks. I love these books. I think they're so good. I want to read a million more of these editions. So I have the Copenhagen Trilogy by Tove Ditlevsen, which is so, so, so good. Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, which I really enjoyed. Clarice Lispector, Near to the Wild Heart. I just finished this book a few days ago, and I'm still processing. That was not what I thought it was going to be at all. Really beautiful writing. The plot is so plotless that I still feel like I need to work through and maybe like go back and reread my underlines. And then I have Jean Rhys, Good Morning Midnight. And then I have Angela Davis's Woman, Race, and Class and Audre Lorde's Sister Outsider. I'm currently reading Sister Outsider and really, really loving it. But these 2, I got them because in 2025, I really want to focus on A, reading more nonfiction, and B, reading more like intersectional feminist piece. And these 2 feel quite foundational to that. So hoping to learn more about that and just like have more of an education on that. Fernando Pessoa's The Book of Disquiet. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera. James Baldwin, If Beale Street Could Talk. And Virginia Woolf's Orlando. I have not read any of these. I have 2 Penguin English Library editions. I have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I absolutely adore, and Kate Chopin's The Awakening, which is also really, really fantastic. And then up top, I only have 2 NYRB books. I have Abigail by Magda Szabo. I just finished this month, and I really enjoyed it, but I thought the pace was a little slow. And then I have Notes of a Crocodile by Cui Maojin. Now, over to here, I have put some of my perfume bottles here for now. I would like to eventually have a space where it's just like all of my perfumes and jewelry is in like one area of the bookshelf, but I can't fit that right now, so this is where it is for now. Hopefully, as I get rid of books, I'll be able to have a dedicated space for it. But anyways, I have 4 cloth-bound classics. These 3 are the Penguin cloth-bound classics. I have Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, and 2 Jane Austens. I have Persuasion and Mansfield Park. I love Persuasion. Probably my favorite Jane Austen. I haven't read Mansfield Park. And I also have this clothbound, but I think it's a Union Square edition. It's A Tale of Two Cities by Dickens. I have The Master and the Margarita by Bulgakov. I haven't read either of these 2. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, which I'm technically currently reading. I've taken a very long break from it, and I'm just not sure. I kind of want to finish it, but I'm kind of also thinking if I should just DNF it. We'll see on that one. And then Lolita by Nabokov, which I have not read. And then this stack is like my modern books, but they're like just not a part of a standard edition set. So I have 3 Toni Morrison, Beloved and Song of Solomon. I actually read in high school, and these are my high school copies. Paradise. I have Perfume by Patrick Suskind, Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion, Stoner by John Williams, Love, 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 and Flowers of Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This one has been on my shelves for so long and I still haven't read it. I really feel like I need to pick it up soon just because it's probably the oldest book on this shelf. Then onto middle shelf. I have some bookmarks here. I don't really use bookmarks, but you always get them when you buy in store. So I have Brick Lane Bookshop, which is in London, and White Whale, which is in Pittsburgh, both stores I love. This stack is my nonfiction. So I have a couple of like memoirs, autobiographies. None of This Rocks by Joe Chorum, who's the guy from Fall Out Boys. I haven't read this one. The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolber. I read this in undergrad. It's just about how a number of animals are going extinct in this period of time, and she's wondering if it's a sixth mass extinction in Earth's history. Bluets by Maggie Nelson, which unfortunately I did not like. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, which is excellent. And then two memoirs, In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado and Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Highly, highly recommend. Love these. Same thing with Blue Nights by Joan Didion, also a fantastic memoir. And then I have South and West by Joan Didion, which is kind of a random purchase that I made spontaneously. And then Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I've read Roxane Gay's essays before. I read some from Hunger. So this is also a part of that like intersectional feminist study that I want to do this year. And then I have Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, which is a book on mushrooms, but I haven't read it yet. And then I have Upstream by Mary Oliver, which is a series of essays on like nature and writing. And then I have two poetry books, including Devotions by Mary Oliver and Ariel by Sylvia Plath. I'm not much of a poetry person. I'm currently reading Ariel and not really enjoying it or getting it, but I feel like Devotions is better. I haven't read it yet, but I know some of Mary Oliver's poetry and I feel like she's just very grounded. The rest of this shelf is like more recent publication and generally just a mishmash of fiction. So it's like a lot of literary fiction and historical fiction kind of jumbled together. I have 3 books by men: Northwoods by Daniel Mason, The Overstory by Richard Powers, and Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. I've only read Shuggie Bain of the 3 and I really, really love it. And then yeah, the rest is kind of a jumble. So I have Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress, and then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, The Maiden by Kate Foster, and River East, River West by Aubrey Lescure. These 3 were longlisted for the Women's Prize this year. I have Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I actually did not like. Outline by Rachel Cusk, which I have mixed feelings about. The Dutch House by Anne Patchett, which is my aunt's copy and I need to read it soon so I can return it to her. Pachinko by Mingjing Lee, which I want to read very soon. This is also one that's been sitting on my shelves for a long time. It's like this historical fiction epic saga on Korea and Japan. And then White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I have not read anything by Zadie Smith, so I really want to pick this up, even though I don't know what it's about. And then I have my 2 copies of Claire Keegan. I have Foster and Small Things Like These, both of which are excellent and I highly recommend. This last stack is also more like modern publications on literary/historical fiction. So I have a lot of Barbara Kingsolver and Elif Shafak books. The 2 on the bottom are The Island of Missing Trees and Demon Copperhead, both of which are like favorite of all time books for me. These editions are much longer than other paperbacks, so that's why they're on the bottom. And then I have 10 Minutes and 38 Seconds in This Strange World and The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. And 3 Barbara Kingsolver books. I have The Poisonwood Bible, Flight Behavior, and Prodigal Summer. I also have her short story collection, which is Homeland and Other Stories. Last year, I was trying to read all of Barbara Kingsolver's work in chronological order, and I only got about halfway through, so I actually have not read these 2 yet. I really love Barbara Kingsolver, but it was just too much to try and read all of her in one year. She has like 16 books, so I will read all of her someday, just not this year. And then I have Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy, The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen Agostini, and A Trace of Sun by Pam Williams. This bottom shelf is a mix of fantasy books, so I have my jar of knitting scraps. This is... it's not perfect. So this stack is meant to be like dark academia books. So I have Babel by R.F. Kuang, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's not all fantasy. Like My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell is literary fiction. All's Well by Mona Awad is like debatably dark academia. Same thing with Pure Nessie by Susanna Clark. And then these two are just very vibey, atmospheric fantasy. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi and Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. I don't know, they just kind of go here because I vibe with that. And then I have a box set of The Lord of the Rings. I borrowed it from my mom, but I haven't read it yet. I have this gorgeous bottle of lotion, more fantasy slash sci-fi. So this is the, what's the series name? The Winter Witch, I believe. It's The Bear and the Nightingale, The Girl in the Tower, and The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden, which is this like atmospheric medieval Russian inspired fantasy series. I just finished it and I really, really loved it. Then I have some more sci-fi. Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. I have not read that one yet. Pod by Laylene Paul. It's about like sea creatures. And then Kazu Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, which is like, I don't know, maybe you could call that sci-fi. Uprooted by Naomi Novik, which is a standalone fantasy book, and What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is also like a mushroom horror fantasy book. And then more ish fantasy. So The Will of the Many is a Roman-inspired fantasy book, which I love. The second book is coming out in May, and I'm very excited for that. Slewfoot by Brahm and Rouge by Mona Awad are more horror books, and Rouge is like also kind of magical realism. Malice by John Gwynne, which is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series, which I'm actually currently reading, but struggling a bit with the world building. And then I have The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, which is a standalone fantasy, but I have not read yet. I have my Farseer trilogy, The Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. Highly recommend if you like fantasy. And then I have The Age of Myth by Michael Sullivan, which I have read. It's the first book in the Legends of the First Empire series, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to continue. I thought the book was just okay, so I don't know if I want to invest and read 5 more in this series. And now on the bottom of my shelf, which is where things go haywire, it's books I don't really know what to do. And also all of my jewelry, which is in boxes in front of the books. So I have my stack of Frederick Bachman books. I love the Beartown trilogy. I have yet to read some of his other ones. I will eventually, but they're all just in a stack down here. And then I have a bunch of nonfiction how-to books. It's crochet and knitting and bread cookbook. I have a bunch of my boyfriend's nonfiction books, which have been exiled to the bottom of the shelf. Over here, I have a stack of like modern classics, so like Ernest Hemingway, Farewell to Arms, and The Sun Also Rises, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and The October Country by Ray Bradbury. Most of these are like high school books. And then I also have my edition of Hamlet by Shakespeare, which is also a high school book, and just randomly there. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these. I think I need to get rid of them, but I'm not sure how. And then this is a stack of books that my mom has given me that I need to read. They're kind of a mix of genres, so there's some like romance books. The Orphan Witch is a fantasy book, and then some like Jim Butcher and Shannon Butcher books. And I also have this edition of Until I Find You by John Irving, which is actually signed and a very nice copy, but I have yet to read it. Yeah, so that is everything. I feel so much better about this, but I definitely still need to like get rid of a lot of books. There's a lot of books I've read and like even enjoyed or like seriously loved, but I'm just never gonna reread them, so I want to clear off my shelves. I'm planning on moving at some point this year, so really need to like clear out space and just that get ready for that. Also, the amount of books that I have is just kind of overwhelming me. I just want to clear out. But yeah, I'm feeling much better about this. I think it looks a lot better. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, maybe consider giving this a like or subscribing. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!